Another convincing win for the Clemson Tigers as they continue to move up the rankings. They defeated Wake Forest 49-14. We're going to see where the projections show Clemson now. They'll look at some different bowl projections, look at the FPI, and then I'll also give you my personal updated predictions for the rest of the season. All right, Athlon has Clemson ranked projected to finish at number 9 and to play Alabama. So they would have to go on the road to play Alabama, according to Athlon, meaning they do not have the Clemson Tigers winning the ACC. If they were to defeat Alabama, they would then have them playing the number 1 team in the country, Texas, in the Sugar Bowl. So having to go on the road to play Alabama and then play Texas in the Sugar Bowl, that is a very tough draw for the college football playoff if it were to go down that way. Let's now see what else we've got. CBS Sports. They've got Clemson finishing ranked number 10, so just a little bit lower, pretty much the same. And they've got them playing on the road at Georgia. If they were to win that game, then they would play the number 2 team in the country, Ohio State, in the Rose Bowl. So you can see how important winning the ACC is. If they don't win the conference, they're looking at potentially a road game against an Alabama or a Georgia. And then if you win that game, then you're looking at, Texas or Ohio State, one of the top teams in the country. So, yeah, it's going to be very important for Clemson to win the ACC if they want to make a run, at least in my opinion, in the college football playoff. Let's see what else we've got. 24/7 Sports, they've got Clemson playing Alabama in the Peach Bowl. So the way they've got it, it's actually going to be the winner of Alabama and Miami. So they've got Clemson as the number 3 team, number 3 seed. They get a first round bye. They have Alabama at number 11 defeating number 6 Miami. And then again, Clemson hosting Alabama in the Peach Bowl. I don't think they listed the actual bowl games like the names, but I just kind of figured out where they would most likely put them, and it would be in the Peach Bowl. So yeah, again, getting a first round bye and then playing Alabama on a neutral field versus playing Alabama on the road or Georgia on the road and then having to play Texas or Ohio State, you can see the difference in the path and how important it will be for a team like Clemson to win their conference. All right, so we've got one more projection for you. This one comes from the Action Network. Clemson hosting LSU in the first round. So they would get a home game in this scenario against LSU. If they were to win that game, then they would play number 1 Texas in the Sugar Bowl. So it seems like all these projections have Clemson right there around 8, 9, 10, which means if they win their playoff game in the first round, then they have to play number 1 or number 2. So yeah, it would be a lot better for Clemson, obviously, to win the ACC and get that bye, or to finish 5th or 6th. If you finish 5th or 6th and you win your first round matchup, then you're most likely going to play the Big 12 or ACC champion versus the SEC or Big 10 champion. So yeah, it matters where you're seated, that's for sure. And I think that really is shown here with these projections. Okay, so let's see what the FPI now is saying about Clemson. They've got them ranked number 11. Their FPI is 16.8, which means on a neutral field against an average opponent, Clemson would win by 16.8 points, so 17 points basically. They've got their projected record at the end of the season to finish 10 and 2.6. So again, that does include the ACC championship, and they've got about a 60% chance to get there according to these numbers. So yeah, right there around 10-2, maybe 10-3 if they get to the ACC championship, whether they win or lose. So a 10-3 record, and again, most likely getting to the ACC championship game. To go undefeated the rest of the season, that means win out the regular season and then win the conference championship game. A 14.6% chance of doing that. I think the percentage should be a little bit higher. I would probably put that number closer to like a 40%. But yeah, the FBI looking at, the schedule is going to get tougher. It is going to get tougher, and we'll take a look at that in a second. But yeah, that's where they've got that number. 100% chance of getting to a bowl game. Just talked about roughly a 60% chance of getting to the ACC championship. And then how about winning the conference championship, winning the ACC championship? 34.4%. So I think that's a pretty fair projection. It feels like it's Clemson or Miami. I'd probably put both of those teams right around 40%. And then you throw in your other teams, your Pitt, your Louisville, your SMU teams. Maybe those teams each have a 4 or 5% chance, somewhere in that range. So that's a fair number, I would say. Making the college football playoff, 44.8% chance. And you see that number is higher than winning the conference, because I think, if they win out in the regular season, they don't have to win the ACC championship. I think that they will most likely get in regardless. So you can see a higher chance to make it to the playoff than to win the conference. How about making it to the national championship game? A 6.9% chance to do that. And then winning the national championship, a 2.8% chance. So, odds aren't great for Clemson. I don't think most people expect them to get there, or especially to win the national championship this season. But, those numbers aren't nothing. I mean, they've got a shot. And again, for them to go on a run, I think it's going to be very, very important that they either win the conference or they finish 5th or 6th, because that gets you a home game against an easier opponent. And then if you win that game, then you're going to get an easier opponent in the second round. And then, if you get through those 2 rounds, you just got to win a couple of games to win a national championship, which could happen. This is a good Clemson team. So let's look at the some predictions here. I'm just going to give you my predictions, and we'll look at what they were in the preseason, and then I will give you my updated predictions. So in the preseason for Clemson, I had them losing to Georgia, and I had them winning the rest of their games. I had them finishing 11-1. I did have them losing in the ACC championship to Miami, still making the playoff, but I just kind of like the Miami matchup for the Hurricanes in that one, or at least I did in the preseason. So now you look at where they are. Of course, they're 5-1. They got 6 games left. You got Virginia, Louisville, at Virginia Tech, at Pittsburgh, the Citadel, and South Carolina. This schedule is going to get tougher. It's going to be tougher than at least the last 5 games for this team. I think, they should be able to get through Virginia, but then you've got a pretty good Louisville team. You've got back-to-back road games, Virginia Tech and Pitt. Those are going to be tough. Virginia Tech's a tough place to play. This is not a horrible team. We saw them take Miami down to the wire. Pitt has been rolling. That's going to be a tough one. The Citadel will be an easy one, obviously. And then South Carolina, rivalry game. South Carolina's got a good defense. That'll probably be a pretty good game. So I look at this, and I look at the odds of them winning all of these games, and it kind of feels like they probably will trip up somewhere. Again, you got back-to-back road games. You got Louisville. You got South Carolina. But I'm going to stick with my predictions, because when you look at each of these individual matchups, I just think Clemson's the better team, and I think they're better enough that they'll be able to go on the road and beat both Virginia Tech and Pittsburgh, take care of business at home against Virginia, Louisville, and South Carolina. So my updated predictions have not changed. I've still got this team finishing 11-1. I would still lean towards them losing to Miami in the ACC championship game. I just think all the weapons that Miami has on offense, that could pose some problems for this Clemson secondary. But it would be a great game. I could see that game really going either way. But I'm sticking with 11-1 for the regular season for Clemson. And again, it's going to be very important where this team finishes as far as how tough their playoff path is going to be. We'll see what happens. Give me your thoughts on these projections down in the comments below.